This is Alternalido. I am Canyon Cody from the Subsuelo Crew. Right now, honored and excited to have with us Enrique Bunbury. How you doing today, Enrique?
I'm doing great.
Your music has been the soundtrack to so many of our lives for more than 30 years. You have new music out right now.
Yep.
You're out on the road, and it's amazing because you've been doing this pretty much your whole life, but recently there was the possibility that you weren't going to be here today. Talk to us about what you went through this last year.
Well, it was kind of complicated year. I started doing this, the 35th anniversary tour, because it was 35 years after the release of my first album with Héroes del Silencio. And this tour started to be kind of complicated with some problems in my throat and in my lungs. I was having complications in sleeping at night, with coughing the whole night, and waking up with my throat completely destroyed, and with this sensation in my lungs that it was like with sand in my lungs. So I tried to continue with the tour until we finished the first leg in Mexico, and then I went to a doctor to see if I can find out what was the problem. And then I started the American tour, and after 2 shows I had to stop everything because it was completely impossible for me to continue. So we canceled everything. We canceled the tour and we canceled future tours, and I said, okay, that's it. I'm not going to continue doing this because it's starting to be very, very traumatic for me. After a few months, I discovered what was the origin of this problem, that it was this chemical toxic thing that is a component in the haze, in the smoke of the theater smoke. I don't know how you call it, haze?
Mm-hmm, the haze, smoke machine.
Well, I had this allergy or sensibility, so that was kind of I felt amazing discovering that I had no problem, I had no health issues. It was something that it was outside, but it was in the tours. So I started to think, okay, maybe I can do a few shows.
Huh. Well, that's beautiful. You're kind of in this rebirth moment right now, when you
Yep.
you thought that you were not able to go out, and now you're out here again. Let's take it all the way back to the birth before we get to the Rebirth album. I want to talk about growing up in Spain. What was the music that shaped your childhood?
I have to go back a lot, because my uncle is like 10 years older than me, and he was giving me and my brothers cassette tapes of the music that he was in love with. He was very into the Beatles and also the Laurel Canyon music, like, I don't know, Crosby, Stills, Nash & Young, Cat Stevens, and that kind of things. Prog rock, and, well, a lot of albums. At a very early age, I was listening to a lot of interesting and great albums. And later on, I started to play a little guitar, and my first band, I started it with 13 years old, and started to do some shows. That was the beginning of it, before Héroes del Silencio.
What was the first moment that you kind of realized, like, wow, I'm an international rock star?
Well, with the first album, it wasn't that fast. It was, but it was a big success in Spain, but it wasn't a success outside. We did some shows in Europe. We went to Belgium and to Switzerland, I think, and those were our first international shows. And I remember that we were super young, I don't know, 19 years old or something like that, and doing these amazing shows in Spain and going to Europe. It was like, wow. So we were not superstars at that moment, but we felt like superstars. being so young and having a record and sounding in the on the radio, that was a feeling that I can describe.
Now, I grew up hearing your solo material more when I was growing up, but you are infamous during your Eros del Silencio era for having a rather contentious relationship with the press and the media, whereas I've always known you to be extremely friendly and gracious to the media. Was there a change that happened at one point in your career?
Absolutely. When we were super young, we were just, I don't know, reading this New Musical Express and Melody Maker magazines from England, and we were just enjoying how Oasis or whoever was talking to the press, and they were super mean to the press. And we thought, okay, so the press is the enemy, we are the musicians, and we have to talk to them like that. It was, I don't know, innocence maybe. And later on I started to think the relation with the press, it has to be different, because there is the audience is in the other side. So when I'm talking to you, I know that through these cameras there is some people that are interested in my material, and I don't want to be mean to those people. I think that they don't deserve that. They have to, my relation with them has to be completely different. So I started to think every time that I'm talking to a press guy, even if it's not your case, but even if the press guy is mean and is kind of, I don't know, trying to look for your weak parts or whatever, I want to think about the audience. I'm talking to the audience. I'm not talking to the journalist.
So Eros del Silencio, you guys really kind of were part of that transition from the 80s rock sound into kind of alternative 90s. You guys spent 10 years as the biggest band in Spain, one of the biggest bands in Europe, and then you guys broke up and you went solo. Was that transition one that was liberating? Was it scary to be on your own? Talk to me about kind of that point in your career.
It was really scary to be on my own. I always been a team guy. I love to work with people. I love to work with I like the idea of a rock band. And later on, even in my solo career, I've been working with bands. I had the Huracán Ambulante, that was my first band as a solo artist, and then Los Santos Inocentes later. So I always wanted to work with people, and I know that even if in the cover of the album is my name that appears there, is a team job. Is the producer, is the technicians, is the musicians. Everything is making that album sounding like that, and it's not only because of me. It's a team job. So yeah, it was difficult for me to start a new period, and it was difficult because there was many people in my between my audience that wanted me to continue with the sound of Eros del Silencio, and I wanted to investigate in other music and different kinds of genres. But after 2-3 records, I think they started to understand that I was going to make an interesting journey, and they started to follow my career, and I'm very glad that they did.
And you're one of the few rock stars who has been on both sides of the social media era. You were a rock star, before there was this, and now you have, your fans. In terms of receiving feedback from the public, is it a difficult thing to have such a direct relationship with the feedback of fans?
There is social media is not the worst thing in the world, but it's close. I really don't like it in general terms, but I understand that there is a connection that is very direct with the audience, and I think that is amazing. We can connect and we can inform to the audience what we are going to do, and they can directly from me, they can know if I'm going to do shows or I'm releasing a video or an album or whatever. So that's good. But to be involved in answering them through the social media, for me, is too much. I have started a new way of connecting with the people, that is through letters to them directly. There is something that I don't like in social media, that is that there is many people talking that they are not really interested in what they are talking. It's just that they are like these trolls and toxic people that wants just to make some fuss there in the comments in a post. So I prefer to talk to them directly without the trolls around. So I'm starting these letters that I write weekly, and I write to them directly to their mails.
That's beautiful.
So it's a direct connection, and I really like it. So it's not that I want that distance with the audience. It's that there is something that is kind of toxic in the social media.
Now, I wanted to ask about your relationship with Latin America. Being from Spain, you know, there is this distance and yet a shared language. You have collaborated with so many musicians from Latin America, from Carla Morrison to Eliados Ochoa to Adán Jodorowsky on this new album, and you know, have such a history of performing in Latin America. Talk to me about that, the kind of distance but also connection between Spain and Latin America.
I've been traveling around Latin America for a long time, so I don't have that distance. I have a connection. I understand that Spain as a country has a European thing that makes them distant from what is happening in America. I think nowadays it's kind of different. They have more interest in what is happening here in Latin America, and they understand that there is something very, very interesting in the alternative music and in the mainstream music happening in Latin America. But my connection has been always amazing. I loved all Latin America. I've been traveling around because of my work and because I love it. I've been with my backpack traveling around different countries, Nicaragua, Peru, Guatemala, Mexico, of course. I know many of the countries by food.
And one more question about Spain before we get to the new album. You know, over your career, you have such musical curiosity and have, you know, either collaborated with or experimented in cumbia and tango and electronic music and lots of different genres. And I was curious about your relationship to kind of Spain's native indigenous music and flamenco.
Of course, I love it. Of course, not every genre is something that I'm interested, very interested. I'm thinking about, I'm not very much into urban music, but I like rap in Espanol. Of course, I like the traditional Spanish music. I've been very much listening to the folklore of my country when I was a kid, and of course later I've been listening to copla, to flamenco, of course, and the different folklore of the different regions. See, and I think there is some of it in my music. I remember in Pequeño, one of my albums, there was this Arabigo Andalusi music on it. I've been doing some copla covers also. It's something that I don't mind to get deeper into it in the future.
So you have a new album out right now, Greta Garbo, which we were talking before this about trying to count how many albums are in your catalog is complicated because you have the Héroes del Silencio records, and you have your solo records, and you have collaboration records, but you know, by one count, this is your 19th album.
Something like that.
And the name is such an interesting choice. Take us to what was the reason why you added Greta Garbo to the name of this record?
Well, I was writing the songs for this album while this whole thing was happening to me. So the idea of not being able to continue performing was around the themes of these songs, and I thought about what happened to Greta Garbo. Greta Garbo was very successful in the silent movies, and then went into success into the movies with sound, and she decided to stop her acting at 36, and I thought, well, she did it because, well, we don't know, but it was her option, and in my case it was because I had some problems. So, but I thought of her as a symbol of abandonment, not performing anymore. So that's why.
There is a kind of a wistful element in a lot of the lyrics on this album. Talk to me lyrically about Alaska specifically on this record.
Yeah, well, there is this thing in the whole album that there are mixed emotions, and sometimes there is some kind of despair, and at the same time there is this hope of something new that is opening in the horizon. In Alaska, it's a song about just getting somewhere when you can free yourself, and Alaska was this symbol of a lonely place where you can just feel free without a lot of contact with the society. I can say that if I go somewhere to be completely alone, Alaska would be one of the last places on earth. I don't like the cold. I like hot places, but maybe because of that, I thought of this place like being one of the best places to be completely isolated.
And you and the band at Héroes del Silencio took kind of a famous trip to India at a moment in your career when you wanted to get away. What memories do you have from that trip?
Well, I did a few trips to India, and one was with Joaquin, with the bassist of Héroes del Silencio, and that was an amazing trip. We were in a moment that wanted to be involved with so many things, with culture, but also with drugs, with spirituality. So we were mixing everything together, and in that trip it was kind of that kind of mixture of our youth with the drugs and with the spirituality of India, and also with learning some music from there. I was learning sitar and listening to a lot of Indian music. I think it was quite very influential for me for the rest of my life. And musically, I think there is some flavor of it in the next 2 albums that we released, El Espíritu del Vino, especially, and then later Avalancha.
So you're out back on the road on tour, and you have a huge show here in Los Angeles coming up next year. I can't believe 2024, June 15th, playing at the Forum. You know, growing up, the Forum, that's where Magic Johnson and the Lakers were winning championships. It's got such an iconic history. And then you're also playing at Madison Square Garden in New York. What can fans expect from this upcoming tour?
Well, I'm going to be very nervous, and I'm going to be. Right now, just think what you said. It was like, okay, I'm going to do that. Yeah, it sounds amazing for me, and to have the audience coming to see me in this comeback, it's going to be super emotional. Well, of course, we are going to play stuff from Greta Garbo, and we are going to look back to the catalog and review the whole career. We are going to play songs from Héroes del Silencio, from El Huracán Ambulante, Los Santos Inocentes, from Greta Garbo. We are going to try to do a nice set list with some hits, some interesting stuff that you don't expect, and the new stuff.
Well, I'm so excited for the live show, and I gotta ask, you know, I'll be there at the concert. One of the nice things about working in the industry is we get a lot of free concert tickets. We get to be put on the guest list.
Yeah.
Can you remember the last time that you bought a ticket to a concert out of your own money? What was it?
Well, the last time that I bought it was to see The Cure here in the Hollywood Bowl.
I was there.
But I wasn't.
Oh no!
I couldn't.
Oh no!
I couldn't because at the last moment I had to fly to Mexico to do some promotion. So I bought a ticket that I didn't use.
Awesome. Well, hopefully Robert Smith buys a ticket to see you at the Forum next year, June 15th.
He doesn't need to buy a ticket. He's invited.
Okay, Robert, if you're out there listening, you're on the list, +1. Awesome, Enrique. Well, thank you so much for coming on. I'm excited to talk to you in about a year with your 20th album, I'm sure is on its way.
Good. Promise.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, this has been the Artist Spotlight interview with Enrique Bunbury here on Alternalido. We'll be back in just a couple of minutes with more new music.